Welcome to a very special edition of the Hammy Show. We don't have a special guest, but a special co-host, the Ray Guy Award winner in 2010 or 9. Was it 09 or 10?
9, I won it. 10, I was a finalist.
Gotcha. All-American punter, Drew Butler. Drew, thank you so much for being here with me. This is such a pleasure to have you as a very special co-host to the Hammys, the 9th annual.
Yeah. Look, man, thank you so much for the invite. I am honored to be a co-host for the 9th annual Hammys. What a season of college football. I can't believe the regular season's done. Conference championship weekend is over. We've got the college football playoff semifinals set. Christmas is just a few weeks away. Let's go.
It's crazy. So I'll give a little backstory real quick on the Hammys. So I started this in 7th grade. It was my first article ever written for Bulldawg Illustrated. So this is the 9th annual Hammys, named after, or a little spoof on the Grammys, but it just works out that my name has to be the best name ever. And it applies for college football. So this year I wanted to do the first annual Hammys on this podcast. And like I said, I have a very special co-host, so we'll get it kicked off.
Well, first off, give us a little background of how Hammy came to be, because obviously your name is Hamilton. Was that just a natural thing that your parents started calling you when you were younger? Was it from your friends? How did Hammy come to be kind of your de facto name?
All right, so this is actually a good story. You know, you'd think it'd just be like friends started calling me that, whatever. No, so I was 18 months old, I believe. We went to Disney World as a family. My mom's side of the family, she's got 2 siblings, their kids. There was only 3 other cousins at this point in my life. And I was the youngest at the time. And my grandmother, who my mom's mom, she was pushing me around in the stroller, and she started calling it Hammy Jammy TV, because they would just put me in the middle of the floor and just watch me like a baby. I mean, a baby is great entertainment. And so
Disney with an 18-month-old is a brave endeavor. So hats off to your parents for that one.
I know, right? I mean, that is, I can't imagine. I would never do that in the far future. When I have kids, I'm not taking them to Disney World when they're 18 months old, but that's a different story. But yeah, so I was just the baby in the middle of the floor. They called it Hammy Jammy TV. Thank goodness the Jammy got dropped and it's just Hammy now, because Hammy Jammy was a little childish, but yeah, so
there you go.
Hammy. There it is.
Awesome.
Yep. All right. So let's get this kicked off. We'll start with the quarterback of the year. Your finalists are Jaden Daniels of LSU, Bo Nix of Oregon, and Michael Penix of Washington. All 3 transfers, all 3 Heisman finalists, all 3 heck of a year. But your winner is none other than the Tigers' Jaden Daniels. An unbelievable season, 3,812 passing yards, which ranks 3rd in the nation. But the stat that separates him is his rushing yards.
Oh, yeah.
1,134 rushing yards. That is 22nd in the country, first among QBs. 8.4 yards per carry, first of anyone with over 600 yards rushing. The dude's a stud.
Yeah, he absolutely is, Hammy, and just an unbelievable year for Jaden Daniels. As you said, a transfer from Arizona State, what he was able to do, not only with his legs, but passing the ball, 72.2% completion percentage. That's really, really impressive. 40 passing touchdowns, which tied for first in the country, and then you add in how many rushing touchdowns? A bunch.
I think it was 10. Yeah.
10 rushing touchdowns. So, look, I know LSU had 3 losses this season. They didn't even qualify for the SEC championship game. You know, you could consider them a middle-of-the-road SEC team, but Jaden Daniels led the #1 offense in the country. It was impressive what they were able to do week in and week out, and I would be shocked if he doesn't win the Heisman Trophy this weekend.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit before we hopped on, but the Heisman is a bit of a stat padding award now. And Jaden Daniels has the stats. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And like
95.7 QBR.
That's stupid.
Incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's the outright winner, landslide winner. I think the Heisman Trophy winner, somebody who is a scary, scary threat. And it's a shame LSU didn't have a defense to back him up, because he is the best player in the country.
No question about it.
Awesome. So moving on to award number 2, the running back of the year. Now, I had to go with Toledo's Penny Boone as a finalist. He's a
Okay.
stud. He is 6th in the country with 1,400 rushing yards, 7.2 yards per carry. I mean, if you're running the ball with 1,400 rushing yards,
7.2 yards per carry. Wow.
dude, I mean, I didn't get his yards after contact, but the dude is a bowling ball. I mean, he is a absolute beast. So all respect to Penny Boone of Toledo, great running back. Then Oklahoma State's Ollie Gordon, the most rushing yards among anybody in college football, 1,614, an absolute stud. He got stuffed in the Big 12 championship, but nonetheless, a great running back. And finally, Cody Schrader of Missouri. Yeah. I mean, he tore it up against Georgia. He tore it up against all SEC opponents. It's hard to argue his case. I mean, it is easy to argue his case as the best running back in the country, but your winner is Ollie Gordon of Oklahoma State. The dude is an absolute beast. He's got 800-yard rushing games and 250-yard plus rushing games. I mean, an absolute stud.
Yeah, I mean, 250-yard rushing games is incredible. 8 100-yard rushing games for a season-long total of over 1,600 yards. That puts him at first in the country, 20 rushing touchdowns as well. You know, you look at the stats, you look at how important he was for Oklahoma State and their success. They obviously made it to the Big 12 championship game. I know they had a few ugly losses throughout the season, but Ollie Gordon, Hammy Awards running back of the year. Keep in mind, Mike Gundy won the Big 12 Coach of the Year award. So to congratulate Ollie, I do want to say Cody Schrader from Missouri, a baller. He had a hell of a year as well, more of that dual threat guy. He could catch the ball out of the backfield. So I know that was a tough decision for you, Hammy, but you look at the stats, it's hard to go against Ollie Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, I did. It was between those two. Cody Schrader's an absolute stud. What he did against Georgia was honestly embarrassing to our rush defense. He's an absolute beast. I mean, he was a huge focal point of that Missouri offense, and his story's awesome. I mean, he's a former walk-on, and he becomes, this finalist for the Doak Walker Award. And I mean, he's like we said, just a stud out of the backfield, dual threat, can catch it, do everything. I would not be surprised to see him playing on Sunday.
Absolutely.
Very, very soon. So moving on next to your wide receiver of the year. Now, this is a tight battle because the wide receiver talent across the board is absolutely unbelievable. This is an easy finalist decision for me. Marvin Harrison Jr. of Ohio State. Easy. Best, maybe most talented athletic player in the country. Sure. He's unbelievable. Malik Neighbors out of LSU. I'm telling you, if LSU had a defense, they'd be unstoppable because this kid is unbelievable. With Jaden Daniels, they were a crazy, crazy tandem. And finally, Rome Odunes out of Washington. The guy was a stud. He had 102 rushing yards in the Pac-12 championship, a huge point in that win over Oregon. What's taking Michael Penix, Rome Odunes, and Washington, all of the Huskies, to the college football playoff.
That's right.
He's a huge point of that. But your winner is none other than Malik Neighbors. I know he has the best quarterback in the country, and I know that makes your job a lot easier as a receiver. But the dude is absolutely crazy. He's got the hands of anybody, the best hands of anybody in the country. He's kind of a smaller sized dude, but what he did on the gridiron this year was second to none. 1,546 receiving yards, ranks first in the country. I got to give it to him.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Malik Neighbors had an incredible season, led the nation in receiving yards. How about this? 14 touchdowns as well, which is good for second in the nation, only behind Brian Thomas, his teammate. Here's the most fascinating thing about Malik Neighbors. Every single game you went into, obviously you had to stop Jaden Daniels, LSU's quarterback, who's the Hammy quarterback of the year. But Malik Neighbors was number 2, and he was wide open so many times throughout the season. It goes to show you that the offensive scheme for LSU was something special. He had an incredible year. Rome Odunze from Washington, he will be playing on Sundays a bunch. If they make it to the national championship, it will be in a big reason because of him. And then Marvin Harrison Jr., like you said, one of the best players in the nation. But for whatever reason, Ohio State's offense this year, whether it was not having to play guys late in the game, whether it was maybe benching some dudes in the second half, He just didn't have those eye-popping statistics that he has put up in the past. Maybe it was the quarterback he had. I don't think that takes anything away from the kind of player he is. But Malik Neighbors, no questions about it, the Hammys wide receiver of the year.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, the other two players, Malik Neighbors and Rome Odunze, they have Heisman finalist quarterbacks. Now, Kyle
Absolutely.
McCord is a struggling quarterback with Ohio State's offense. They never really figured it out, but Marvin Harrison Jr. still had over 1,000 yards receiving, which is absolutely
He had
insane.
an amazing year just by his standards. You thought he would go for 2,000 rushing yards or something.
Yeah, no,
with all the hype.
exactly. And so it
Receiving
stinks. It stinks to see that because Kyle McCord, I mean, now he's already in the transfer portal. Ohio State's
Crazy.
offense just kind of always struggled. But I loved going with Malik Neighbors because also Marvin Harrison Jr. was kind of the dog killer last year until
Yes,
Javon Bullard laid a hit on him. So it's good to see an SEC person win the wide receiver of the year. And I have to go with Malik Neighbors. So moving on to the next tight end of the year. Your finalists are none other than Brock Bowers. I mean, maybe a top 3 most athletic person in college football, just an absolute stud, an absolute workhorse, an absolute beast on the gridiron. Then Dalen Holker from Colorado State. Now, this is kind of an out the wazoo kind of pick right here, but he has 767 receiving yards, which is first among tight ends. I mean, the dude's kind of a beast, and he's a great run blocker. I kind of watched a little bit of film on him. He's a big dude, got some long flowing hair. He's a great tight end, and he'll definitely go later in the draft, but a force to be reckoned with come Sundays in a few years maybe. But your final finalist is Cade Stover of Ohio State. The dude is massive. I'm telling you, he will be an also great player on Sundays. 576 receiving yards, 14 yards per reception, 5 touchdowns, and 41 receptions. The dude is also a beast. I mean, made Kyle McCord look good. If you can spread it out, I don't know how Ohio State wasn't better than they were, didn't beat Michigan because they had weapons all over the field. I think it started with Kyle McCord because the dude could just never figure it out. But the winner of the Hammy tight end of the year is your very own Brock Bowers. I mean, the dude, you can't not give it to him. He is the greatest tight end in maybe college football history. 714 receiving yards, which is second only behind Dalen Holker. And he missed 3 games.
I know.
Was it 3 games or 4 games?
Yeah.
I'm 4 games with the Tech game too.
That's right. Look, Brock Bowers is incredible. And what he did while at Georgia was nothing short of amazing. Of course, he won the Mackey Award a year ago. He's another finalist this year. I think he should probably win it because he is everything you want your tight end to be. Highly effective in the passing game. He can get in the backfield as well. And then when it comes to blocking, he just does it all. Little unfortunate how banged up he was throughout the year, but that's to be expected. This is football. And when he needed to play in the SEC championship game, he sucked it up and he got out there, and Alabama's defense had an amazing game plan to limit him and not allow Brock Bowers to beat them. But I know he finished second among tight ends. Look, he missed 4 games. He would have had over a 1,000-yard season, I think, easily, considering the games that he missed. 6 touchdowns as well, 56 receptions. He is the tight end of the year, and I'm glad the Hammys has awarded him appropriately.
Yes, sir. I mean, I love, obviously there's a little bias between us two because he's a dog, but you can't argue that he's the best tight end prospect maybe ever. I mean, Kyle Pitts a few years back was an unbelievable guy, but I think Brock Bowers single-handedly can change an offense. And it's hard to do that in the NFL, especially. Like, that is hard to do as a tight end. It is a quarterback's job to do, to change an offense. But Brock Bowers is a key piece that you can shove into any NFL offense and see what happens. I mean, if you have a quarterback that can get him the ball, it's game over.
Here's what I was watching the Bengals game on Monday Night Football last night. And of course, they won. I don't know what the hell they're doing winning that football game without Joe Burrow for the rest of the season. But if you put Brock Bowers on the Bengals offense with Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, he would be an immediate all-pro in the NFL. So I don't know if the Bengals will have that high of a draft pick. Maybe they do make some moves to get Brock Bowers, but that is a perfect fit for where Brock Bowers could be a huge playmaker in the NFL. as a rookie.
Oh, 100%. Like you said, I don't know if they'll be that low, but if they, I mean, without Joe Burrow and they keep losing games, they could very well find themselves as a top 10 pick. And
No doubt.
if Brock Bowers sneaks down there, it'd be
Ooh,
hard to
watch
pass
out.
up on him. So that would be absolutely insane. But moving on to your defensive player of the year, your first finalist, Laitu Latu out of UCLA. Dude has an awesome story. He transferred from Washington to UCLA after not getting any playing time and racked up 13 sacks this year, which is
Impressive.
absolutely crazy.
Oh,
Then
yeah.
Alabama's Dallas Turner, 50 total tackles, 9 sacks, tied for 18th in the country, 2 forced fumbles. He was a beast against Georgia in the SEC championship. He is a dog stopper. He's a dragon slayer. He's whatever you want to call it. He's going to be a great NFL player one day. Then Peyton Wilson out of North Carolina State, 138 total tackles, which ranks 4th in the country.
That's
an absolute,
lot of tackles.
I mean, that is crazy. I don't think we've seen that at Georgia since like Roquan Smith, but an absolute beast. And your final finalist is T'Vondre Sweat out of Texas. Now, Sweat doesn't have the stats that pop off of the sheet, but when I looked at his stat sheet, when I looked at his film, he's like a Jordan Davis. You kind of
the one that caught the touchdown in the Big 12 championship game?
Okay, yes. So he also has a touchdown reception, which not a lot of defensive players can say they have. But he is an absolute beast. He's kind of like your Jordan Davis. He's like Texas's like heart and soul on their defense. Just an awesome guy. He's always got a smile on his face, and you had to give him the ball in the Big 12 championship.
Did you see his celebration?
Yeah, he threw out
when
the
he hit the Heisman pose.
I was like,
that was awesome.
Give it to
the guy's
him.
Like 350. He's like 350 pounds. He's
huge.
Yeah,
he's an absolute beast.
That's awesome.
Your winner of Defensive Player of the Year for this Hammy is Laitu Latu out of UCLA. The dude, like I said, 13 sacks. I mean, it's hard to argue that. I wanted to give it to T'Vondre Sweat just because he threw up the Heisman pose, but Laitu Latu is freaking crazy. It's
a great story and a great selection, Hammy. 49 total tackles, 13 sacks, as you said, but also 2 interceptions and 2 forced fumbles. This dude is a game wrecker, and that's what you want on the defensive side of the ball. Who can affect a game, who can steal a possession, who can be in the backfield with 13 sacks, but then also drop back in coverage, get 2 picks, force 2 fumbles. Incredible season for Laitu Latu, and he gets a Hammy. Good for him.
Congratulations to you, Mr. Latu.
Yes.
And next, your Offensive Lineman of the Year Hammy Award. Your finalists are Joe Alt out of Notre Dame. It's kind of hard to grade an offensive lineman because their stats aren't always out there. It's tough to see really their effectiveness, but Joe Alt is an absolute just wrecking ball. You can run behind him. You can stand behind him in a pocket all day long. He will be playing on Sundays. There's a lot of guys on this list that I've said will be playing on Sundays. He will be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. Absolute beast. Then Cooper Beebe out of Kansas State. He's got an 86.1 scouting grade. He's the 50th best player in the draft. But what he did for Kansas State this year was stuff of legends. He was an absolute beast on the offensive line, opened up the running lanes for anybody and everybody. You could have been a Mack truck, and behind him, you were getting through that line. Then final finalist, Talise Fuaga. I think that's how you say it. Out of Oregon State. Awesome dude. Awesome story. I think he is I think 4th in the offensive lineman, 4th among his position groups. He will be another great player on Sunday, but your winner is none other than Joe Alt out of Notre Dame, a 92 scouting grade, 3rd best player in the draft. Like I said, he'll be a top 5 pick. What he did at Notre Dame for Sam Hartman, opening up that back, keeping that pocket clean.
And Audric Estime in the run game too. Yeah,
Audric Estime, I think he's like a top 10 rusher in the league. So he was an absolute game wrecker, kind of like Latu.
Yeah. I didn't major in physics, but how does this possible? Joe Alt, 6'8", 322 pounds, and it's reported that he runs a 4.9 40-yard dash. I don't know how somebody that big moves that fast and that efficiently. Get out the way if Joe Alt is humming down the field. An incredible season for him. Look, rinse and repeat. Notre Dame's putting linemen in the NFL, but a guy like Alt who has had that much success, he's your Hammy Offensive Lineman of the Year.
There it is. Congratulations to Joe Alt on Offensive Lineman of the Year, presented to you by me. Special Teams Player of the Year. All right, this one was kind of a fun one because I had to include Harrison Mevis. What he did at Missouri was awesome. And he was like a complete culture guy. Kind of reminded me of like Rodrigo when he played for Georgia, just like everybody rallied around him, loved him. When he's announced before the game, he gets the loudest cheer in the stadium. Mevis is the same way. He's massive. He's a huge kicker. He's like 230 pounds, which is crazy as a
big
kicker.
Fella.
But he hit 24 of 30 field goals this year. 5th in field goals made, 80%, 61-yard long, an SEC record. Beat out your dad.
Yes,
on the SEC longest field goal. But awesome story, awesome kicker from Missouri. Your next finalist is Graham Nicholson out of Miami of Ohio. He had 26 of 27, tied for second in field goals made, and 96.3%, which is third among all FBS kickers, but first of all FBS kickers who kicked more than 15 field goal attempts. So an absolute stud, just maybe almost nearly perfect. And then finally is Jose Pisano out of UNLV, 25 for 27 and 92.6% make percentage, 52-yard long, 52 for 52 on extra points. I think it's an overlooked stat in kickers on your extra points. If you can consistently make an extra point and go like 99 to 100% on the year, it's an absolute that's awesome. That is perfect. That's all you ask for from a kicker. But your winner of the Special Teams Player of the Year is the big boy, Harrison Mevis out of Missouri. I love the story. He missed a field goal last year, came back against Kansas State, hit that 61-yard long. Just awesome. I mean, it was so cool to watch, and a great, great story out of Missouri.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, Mevis will be playing on Sundays. I see a trend here, Hammy. A lot of your award winners will translate into the NFL. But what he was to that offense, essentially a security blanket to get them 3 points, and then that 61-yarder to win the game. It was a walk-off 61-yarder. That was sick. He had an amazing career at Mizzou. Very, very deserving of this Hammy. I do need to give one shout-out here, though. Iowa's punter, Tory Taylor. The dude had 87 punts. 87 punts in college football, folks. That is insane. As we all know, Iowa's offense, completely putrid, absolutely abysmal. Hardly even watched them. But Tory Taylor, 87 punts on the season. He finished with an average of 47.9, which is good for third in the country. And then net punting, which is one of the most important statistics in all of football. Iowa finished second in net punting. So a huge shout out to Tory Taylor, 43.7 net average, 87 punts, came up just short. And it's not your fault. I do want to say that. It's not your fault. It's your offense's fault. They were so bad that you didn't win this Hammy. So congrats to Harrison Mevis.
I know you had to. I knew you were going to throw in a punter. I knew it. I should have let you just have the special teams award and you picked.
No, Harrison Mevis is that's the right selection. So good job.
But yeah, I think I saw a stat the other day. I think they had more punting yards than they did offensive yards.
That would be incredible if true. They had 4,156 punting yards, I believe, or is that net punting yards? Let me check it right here. Yeah, 4,000, almost 4,200 punting yards. That's incredible. Okay, their offense was horrible, but Harrison Mevis is the right choice.
Yeah, I mean the Harrison Mevis story is awesome, but Iowa's offensive story is like a great story just because we can laugh at it, but kind of a fun one to look at in college football. I mean, the story of them in the Big Ten championship, that bar that was selling beer for free until
I hope people didn't die.
I know. I mean,
it's crazy.
I wish that they would do that in Georgia. They would just, but we wouldn't get but one free beer because we scored.
Yeah. All right. I do have it. Yeah, dude. Iowa's offense, 3,100 yards. Come on.
Holy cow.
Come on. They outpunted the offense by over 1,000 yards. So there you go.
There you go. All right. This next award is something that I have to bring up. It appeals to all the audiences, but I want the audience to know that I didn't pick this. I always give my sister, her name's Mimi Culpepper. I'll give her a little shout out.
Shout out, Mimi.
I give her a 1 pick in the Hammys. So this is a Mimi award, and it is the best looking player in college football. So we'll run through it really fast. We don't have to linger on this, but your winner is JJ McCarthy. I didn't even put finalist on there. So thank you very much, Mimi. You did great.
All right. I bet she did some
McCarthy.
extensive research to figure out who the best looking player is.
Yeah, I think this is one of those things where we're compiling stats. She's looking at Instagram profiles. So
Awesome.
moving on. We'll
Thank
get through
you,
that
Mimi.
one quick. Yeah, thank you, Mimi. But the best uniform of the year. This is a fun one. I love doing this. So your finalists are Ole Miss's powder blues with the white helmets that have like some blue accents on it.
Yeah, those are sick.
They wore it game 9 of the season. It was a 37-35 win over Texas A&M. So it boded well for them. It's like not like a black jersey for Georgia where we, kind of fumble the bag against Alabama. But Ole Miss's powder blues were nasty looking. They looked awesome.
Yeah.
And then your other finalist is Navy's Silent Service Submarine Tribute.
Okay.
It is an awesome jersey. They're wearing it against
Army this weekend.
Army, yes. And that is always a classic uniform battle, or it has recently become that just because, it's America's game. And they always make both of those teams look awesome. America wins this weekend when they play, and I can't not wait for it. So your winner of the uniform Hammy is Navy's Silent Submarine jerseys and uniforms, whatever. The helmets.
It's a great pick.
The helmets,
I'm looking at them right now. They're awesome.
They're like airbrushed submarines on there. It looks sweet. But I want to say this. So Navy put out a statement. It says Navy Athletics and Under Armour unveiled the 2023 Army-Navy game uniform today that will honor the silent service, the U.S. Submarine Force, its families, and supporting personnel. It's just awesome. I mean, I love the military academies in this country. Yes. They are the brave souls in this country that protect our freedoms. And I love Navy's uniforms. They look great.
Yeah, this is one of the best uniform matchups of the year, Army-Navy. This year, the game is in Boston at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough. Army has a sick uniform as well. It's called the Dogface Soldiers Award, based on some Desert Storm inspiration from back in the 90s. But my buddy and a damn good dog, Clint Bowling, he's going to this game for the 2nd year in a row. They were up in Philly last year. He was like, dude, it was awesome. So much fun. The tailgating's great. The pageantry of, the marches of the cadets and of the soldiers they come in. I'm partial to Army, though. I got to roll with the Army. I mean, not for the uniform selection. Clearly, the Navy Silent Service uniforms have won Hammy's Uniform of the Year. But this weekend, I'll say go Army, beat Navy.
I will too. I have a few friends that actually went to West Point, and
there you go.
I'm gonna roll with Army as well. But yeah, it's an awesome game, awesome atmosphere. It's bucket list for me. After going to the Rose Bowl,
me too.
Going to Notre Dame in 2017, like what's left on my sports bucket list is Lambeau Field and the Army Navy game. Like I have to go to that before I die. Those are just two awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking at the helmets here. The Navy helmets are sick, and they said the Eclipse Navy is the darkest shade of navy blue. That's what Navy will be rocking this weekend. Sweet.
Oh, that's awesome. That is so cool. All right, moving on to your next, Hammy. These are the difference makers. These are difference makers on the field and difference makers off the field. It's an awesome award. They do the AFCA All-State Good Works team.
Yep.
And I think is it the William Campbell Trophy that awarded to the
William Campbell Trophy is up there. That's the Scholar Athlete of the Year award. Lab McConkey is a finalist for that, but also the Warfel Trophy. Yeah. Danny Warfel has a phenomenal trophy, which puts a huge emphasis on community service. And I believe both of these guys are finalists, Blake Corum and Lab McConkey, for the Warfel Trophy.
Yes, they are. So those are your finalists, Blake Corum and Ladd McConkey, two great dudes and two difference makers on the gridiron. You can never forget what they do on the football field because they're absolute studs. But what they do in their communities means so much more to those areas of where they play. And it is awesome stories. So your winner is Georgia's very own Ladd McConkey, an unbelievable dude off the field and on the field. We'll list the stats first. So 29 receptions, 456 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns, 15.7 yards per reception. But he was hurt for half the year. But when he's on the field, he is a difference maker. He is a huge centerpiece of Georgia's offense. Carson Beck loved going to him. When Brock was out, it was Ladd. When Ladd was out, it was Brock. But when they were both in, we were clicking on all cylinders. So a difference maker on the field, but off the field. This is from the Red and Blacks, Owen Warden. It says, from his work with Camp Rainbow, Read Across America, and other programs, McConkey's work in the community has earned him several honors. Among them, he was named a finalist for the Warfel Trophy, which is given annually to an exceptional football student athlete in the community and classroom. McConkey was also named to the All-State American Football Coaches Association Good Works team. An absolute awesome dude, and you can't argue with it.
Yeah, and a finalist for the William V. Campbell Trophy. I think the Campbell Trophy is quite possibly the highest honor in all of football for any student athlete. What it does is throughout all divisions, so D1 all the way down to D3, a school gets to nominate one senior football player, and the award goes to 1, on-field performance, 2, in the classroom performance, and 3, community service performance. Some call it the academic Heisman. 12 finalists a year get to go to the National Football Foundation College Football Hall of Fame Awards Dinner, which is actually happening tonight. Coach Richt is being inducted into the Hall of Fame, and Ladd will be there as a finalist of the Campbell Trophy. I was fortunate enough to be invited back in 2011 as a finalist when I was a senior. It's a brotherhood. It is a fraternity. It is a unique group of guys who go on to do just absolutely amazing things. For example, when I was a finalist, Kirk Cousins was a finalist as well. Remember, Georgia played Michigan State. That was my last game in the Outback Bowl, triple overtime. We lost. Kirk Cousins' wife also went to the great University of Georgia, so we become pretty good friends over the years. But I think it was William Rodriguez, Andrew Rodriguez, was the team captain of Army, a West Point grad. His GPA was like 4.2. I show up to this awards. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to enjoy myself because there's no chance in hell I'm winning this award. I'm just honored to be nominated. But I was at a leadership conference a couple of years ago, about 2 years ago, and it was all the former Campbell Trophy finalists. And I was wondering, hey, is Rodriguez here? And they're like, oh, no. He's way high up in the military. You know, he's already working his way up. He's been over in the Middle East. They were like, he is an absolute certified stud. So it's very, very cool because it's a group of guys who have done so much, not only on the field, but off the field. And Ladd McConkey being a finalist this year, that is a massive, massive honor. And it's always great when a Georgia player is recognized as a finalist for the Campbell Trophy, but even more so, honestly, your Hammy difference maker of the year, Ladd McConkey.
There you go. It's a high honor just to be even in the talks between us in this podcast. So congratulations to Ladd. I'm just kidding. That's way too cocky. But moving on to the villain of the year. This is a fun award that I just came up with the first time it will be revealed.
Okay.
And this one it was kind of highly debated. Me and Drew decided it, final decision right before we hopped on this. But your finalist number 1, Jonathan Smith, Oregon State's former head coach, now Michigan State head coach. But here's the story. He told the team the night before the Oregon State game, the Civil War, their rivalry game, it is pretty much like their national championship. They live and breathe for that state championship in the state of Oregon.
And this year, the last one ever, because Oregon's going to the Big Ten and Oregon State's going to be playing Mountain West teams. No more
Exactly. So he tells his team in the locker room that he's heading to Michigan State the night before this game. The
Why would you do
Beavers
that?
then go on to lose 31-7. He played at Oregon State. I didn't know this. He played at Oregon State. Jonathan Smith
Yes.
played at Oregon State, led them to one of their best seasons, a Fiesta Bowl win over Notre Dame in 2001. They are playing Notre Dame this year in the bowl
Yeah.
game. It's just kind of weird, kind of eerie, but a massive villain. I mean, what a terrible move.
Here's what I will say about, and I know you have a couple more finalists to read off here for Villain of the Year. But Jonathan Smith, one, being radically candid, telling his team, I'm leaving. He's not lying to you. I'm leaving. Now, why he would decide to tell him that the night before the Civil War, I have no idea. So I don't fault him for being brutally honest with his team. I mean, everybody would want that, just interesting timing. But then two, Oregon State doesn't even have a home next year. Like, they're not in the Pac-12 next year. So, I mean, I get it. To turn your back on your alma mater like that, though, that's something. That's something. Who's next, Hammy?
All right. Your next finalist is Jermaine Burton.
What a guy. What a guy.
I mean, this one, he cuts deep. What he did to Georgia after we win the national championship, we beat Alabama 33-18 in Indianapolis, and he comes out and he has a great game in the Orange Bowl, a pretty good game in the national championship, and he comes out and he tells us that he's transferring.
Really,
but not just to any school, to Alabama.
That's right.
And this year, Alabama gets back at us. They beat us in the SEC championship. It's an all-out, knockdown, drag-out, SEC football game in the SEC championship this past weekend. And he decides
to taunt the student section,
not to run and enjoy it with his teammates, but come to the edge of the Georgia student section and taunt every former classmate. Think about that. He was in classes with some of those kids, and he taunts every single one of them. I think he is just a total asshole.
Lest we forget what he did at Neyland Stadium last year when Alabama lost to Tennessee and fans rushed the field, and there is clear evidence, video evidence of Jermaine Burton absolutely hip-checking a poor female student from Tennessee, chucking her to the ground. Jermaine Burton, be better. Be better.
I mean, he's a villain. Like, there's no ifs, ands, and buts. He is like the Joker, but like the Joker that you don't like. Just the bad part of the Joker. He's just a villain. He's a villain. And your final villain of the 2023 college football season.
Drum roll, please.
The committee.
Yeah, the College Football Playoff Committee. Hammy, I know you haven't announced a winner yet, but the College Football Playoff Committee, this does say enough for itself. What they've done to flip the game of college football on its collective head, everybody questioning the sanctity of our beloved sport. And I did see a quote that kind of made me grounded, and it said, I've searched all the parks and all the cities in the world, and I've never found a statue of a committee. It is just so true. Leadership is not a committee. Strong leadership is one person taking a group of people, making the tough decisions, and standing out front when times are tough and standing in the back when times are good. The College Football Playoff Committee, of which it's comprised of 13 old people with very, very few connections to the game of college football. It's a joke. It's a travesty. And Hammy, can I just go ahead and announce they are the villain of the year?
Congratulations to the CFP on the worst Hammy you can possibly earn, because you are a terrible, terrible group of people that have honestly ruined a great year of college football. I mean, Can I just say one thing? They did some things heading in and announcing the Final Four on Selection Sunday that they've never done in the past. They put two teams. They've never put one team outside the top six into the top four on Selection Sunday. They've never taken the number one team and taken them outside of the top four on Selection Sunday. They've never left an undefeated Power 5 conference champion out of the college football playoff. They did that on Selection Sunday. And I think what's probably most frustrating for all college football fans is the fact that they hardly offered any explanation. And let's just keep it with the Georgia Bulldogs for right now. Georgia, number one team in the nation, third straight undefeated regular season, 29-game win streak,
They go into a neutral site. They play Alabama. It's a conference championship game. They lose by 3 points, not 30 points, by 3 points as the number 1 team in the nation to the number 8 team in the nation. And you know what the College Football Playoff Committee did to them? You know what they did to Georgia? They did this. They crumpled them up. They threw them out like trash. And they said, thanks for coming. You guys are all the way back to number 6. Not even a question or an explanation of even talking about Georgia still being one of the 4 best teams in the country. I don't know, Hammy. Bizarro world stuff. The committee has egg on its face, no question.
I agree. I saw a tweet last night, and it was after Trevor Lawrence went down in the Monday Night Football game. And it was like, oh,
Can't
Trevor
put the Jags
Lawrence
in the playoffs now.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence gets hurt. Maybe we leave him out of the playoffs now. It's so true, though. Like, I mean, it's absolutely a travesty to see that this group of people is the godfathers of college football, and they decide everyone's fate.
E.J. Manuel, former first-round NFL draft pick, former Florida State starting quarterback. He's on the ACC network. I thought he probably put it as succinctly and accurately as possible. He says, hey, College Football Playoff Committee, this is just wrong, plain, and simple. He says, Jordan Travis, this is not your fault. Like, congratulations to you. You had an amazing career. You did everything you possibly could. You getting injured is not your fault. He goes, committee, you telling us that Florida State is not the same team without Jordan Travis? We know. We know that. Thank you for letting us know what we already know. However, setting the precedent that without your star player, starting quarterback, you no longer deserve a chance to fight for a national championship when you have overcome those problems the last 2 weeks goes against everything any football player is taught from when you are in Pee Wee all the way to the NFL. And what is that? It's not about just one player. Can you overcome adversity? Can you work together as a team? Can you galvanize your group, coaches, support staff, players to play as one and say, hey, let's rely on other pieces rather than what we have just lost? It just sucks, plain and simple. And the committee to set that precedent, it's dangerous, and it's not going away with a 12-team playoff.
I agree. And this is one thing. The lack of consistency is what makes me so mad. And it showed in the final rankings as well, because they put Liberty ahead of SMU. Liberty's now the highest ranked group of 5 team. They're 13-0 conference champions, so they get the New Year's Six Bowl bid. SMU is the ranking behind them, and they are 11-2. I think head and shoulders the better team. They're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster. They have every recruit, way more recruits than Liberty could ever get.
Yeah.
But they put in the 13-0 conference champion. And then at the top 4, they put in the 12-1 conference champion over the 13-0 conference champion. There's no consistency. There's no consistency.
None at all. None at all.
It's absolutely brutal to see that we leave the fate of college football in their hands. But on to the next Hammy Award, the play of the year. And I think this one is a pretty easy decision. So we'll leave it as the last finalist. But your first is Harrison Mevis' 61-yard SEC record field goal to beat Kansas State. We talked about it already because he is the Hammy kicker of the special teams player of the year. His 61-yarder was absolutely awesome. Ice in his veins to win the game against Kansas State, kind of got the ball rolling for Missouri. Now they're in a New Year's Six Bowl, and it is largely thanks to Harrison Mevis, the 230, 40-pound kicker.
The thicker kicker.
The thicker kicker. Yeah.
That's what they call him.
I love it. And then your next finalist is Tavondre Sweat touchdown reception for Texas. This Big 12 moment in the championship game was absolutely awesome. I love
a totally sick Heisman pose as well.
Oh, an awesome Heisman pose. That is alone why I threw it in here. I love seeing a big guy get up there and throw up the Desmond Howard Heisman pose. Absolutely awesome play. Absolutely great moment for the Texas Longhorns. They're off to the CFP. We'll see what they can do against Washington in the
Sugar Bowl.
Sugar Bowl. Yeah, Sugar Bowl. Right. Wow. And so your final finalist and your winner is 4th and 31. Jalen Milroe to Isaiah Bond. that was absolutely insane. It was luck. It was craziness in Jordan Hare. Jalen Milroe has really come into himself and become a serious threat in college football. So that play was
4th and goal from the 31-yard line. They had to score. They were down by 4. Auburn rushed 2 people. It's mind-blowing how stupid that decision was. The play before, Jalen Milroe had stepped across the line of scrimmage, came back, threw a pass, penalty, 10 yards, loss of down. They had to burn a timeout, so 10 seconds didn't tick off the clock. The play before that, miscommunication with the snapper. They lose like 16 yards. It was a comedy of errors for Alabama. And Jalen Milroe made it all go away with an unbelievable play, a toss to the back left corner of the end zone to Isaiah Bond. Credit Milroe. Credit Isaiah Bond. Look, they said it after the game. We practiced that scenario, and they had the opportunity to deliver it in a game. It saved their season. It vaulted them to an SEC championship win over Georgia, and now they're in the college football playoffs. So you could look at it and say 4th and 31 because of a 4th and goal touchdown from the 31-yard line. Alabama is now in the college football playoff, but you could also simplify it even more than that. Alabama's in the college football playoff because Jordan Travis got hurt. Sorry.
Yep.
That's
I'm
it.
glad we touched on this because there is a huge strike of luck in the Crimson Tide's favor because that play was absolute luck. They said they practiced it, but dude, still, come on. That's 31-yard touchdown pass on 4th and goal. Like, still a little bit of luck in there.
That's right.
And then Jordan Travis getting hurt. That's why they're in. So we're going to get fired up if we keep talking about it. So we need to move on. But the next Hammy is the game of the year. Your finalists are the Iron Bowl, which we just talked about, a crazy game, an awesome game. Luck. It's just luck. I mean, I can't even say anything else about it. Then Notre Dame at Duke. Notre Dame wins 21-14 on a last-minute drive by Sam Hartman, and it was an awesome game. I mean, a defensive battle to the bitter end, and then Sam Hartman just absolutely coming out there and showing the country why he was a top quarterback in the country. And he's a transfer, but he's Notre Dame, and he is all in with the Fighting Irish. So that was just an awesome win for Notre Dame. They've gone on to have some terrible losses, but for that sake, for that point of the season, it was a great game. Then Oregon at Washington, part 1. Crazy game.
Great game.
Next finalist, Pac-12 championship, Washington
awesome
and Oregon. Combined between those two games, the difference was 6 points. Each game was decided by 3 points.
70-64 total.
Dude, it is crazy. Like I mean, and the fact that Washington beat Oregon twice in one season, that is so hard to do. Like,
very impressive.
Alabama couldn't do it to us in 2021. Auburn couldn't do it to us in 2017. So it is, I think, one of the biggest props to Michael Penix, Kalen DeBoer, and the Washington Huskies that they beat the same team twice, who is a playoff contender throughout the whole year. But your winner of game of the year, and I hate to do this, is the Iron Bowl. I mean, it's hard to argue because it was just so exciting, and it's rivalry weekend. Auburn has no business being in that game. They just got blown out by New Mexico State the week before.
Incredible.
And they're hanging in there with big bad Alabama. So got to give it to them.
Yeah, absolutely incredible game. So I had done Atlanta News First, the local CBS station here in town, their SEC wrap-up show. So we would come on air for an hour after the 3:30 SEC on CBS game. So while you're sitting in the studio waiting to go live, cameras turn on as soon as the game ends, I have my IFB in my ear. So I am listening to the audio on the TV monitors. Of course, it's on CBS. So I'm listening to Nestler and Gary Danielson call the game. Well, it's late in the fourth quarter. We're sitting in the studio, and the audio is about 15 seconds ahead of what I'm seeing on TV. So I'm watching the game. They're getting up to the line of scrimmage, and I'm listening to Nestler. He caught it. He caught it. I'm like, oh my God, what is about to happen right here? And then, of course, they didn't rush anybody. Milroe throws it deep back left, and the rest is history. I will say this, though, for Auburn fans. you made the right coaching hire. Even if there is the proverbial baggage that comes with Hugh Freeze, the reason you hired him is, one, he had success against Kirby Smart defenses while he was at Ole Miss, and two, he's not afraid of Nick Saban. Auburn almost beat Georgia at home, and they should have beaten Alabama at home. I know both those games were at Jordan-Hare. Auburn does not have the type of talent to fit the Hugh Freeze scheme quite yet, but 2 losses in very close fashion to your 2 bitter rivals, I think that goes to show that Hugh Freeze is probably the right fit on the Plains.
Yeah, I completely agree. I thought about that after that game, that Hugh Freeze really can be an Alabama killer, and he can be a Georgia killer.
No
I mean,
question.
he is the guy for the job for that school that their top 2 most hated schools, and he's kind of got their number at some times. That's right. I mean, he had our number and Bama's number until late in the fourth quarter this year. So
that's right.
In both games. So I think he's a great fit out there. That is your game of the year presented by me, Hammy Culpepper. And then finally, well, we got two more. Your coach of the year. Your finalists are Jamie Chadwell of Liberty. First season there, 13-0, number 23 in the country. First ever New Year's Six bowl by the Liberty Flames. What a job he has done. Came from Coastal Carolina.
That's right.
And, I mean, has absolutely boosted Liberty to a serious football program in America, which is crazy. Your second finalist is Kalen DeBoer of Washington. First season, 13-0, Pac-12 champs, number 2 in the country, their second ever CFP appearance, and he's got a Heisman candidate quarterback.
Yep.
Kalen DeBoer, what he's done at Washington is absolutely the stuff of legends. I think that speaks for itself. Number 2 in the country, 13-0 Pac-12 champs. But we'll keep moving on to the finalists. Dan Lanning of Oregon, 2 great Pac-12 schools that we just mentioned. But Dan Lanning in his second season with Oregon, 11-2, only losses to Washington, as we mentioned, by a combined score of 6 points. Number 8 in the final ranking. They are in CFP contention all year until the Pac-12 championship game, but an amazing job by the former Georgia defensive coordinator and his work at Oregon. Your next finalist, Mike Norvell, Florida State. His 4th season with the Noles, ACC champs, 13-0, a snubbed CFP finalist appearance. Number 5 in the country to finish out the year. They won the ACC championship with a 3rd-string quarterback.
It's impressive.
But I think the absolute leadership role that he took on when they get snubbed and his statement that he released was so classy. I think that was handled so well. And, I mean, to be honest, I'm nervous about Florida State. They've got something to prove in the Orange Bowl. And Mike Norvell is a great head coach that can legitimately compete with anybody in the country. So
no doubt.
Definitely a finalist for this Hammy. And finally, hate to do it, but it's Nick Saban.
Lord Saban.
Jeez, he is a legend. I wrote that in our notes. Before I put his 17th season, his SEC championship win, just legend. He's a legend. 12-1, number 4 in the country, 8th CFP appearance under Saban. That's wild. But the thing that's brought him into this finalist conversation was how he handled the Jalen Milroe situation. Jalen Milroe didn't start a game.
He benched him.
To figure out who was the QB1, and he became QB1. And Jalen Milroe beat the undefeated, the 29 win in a row Georgia Bulldogs. Jalen Milroe, how Saban handled that situation. I think he's got like a script on how to handle quarterback situations because he does this to us every year.
Yeah, he's just not afraid, too. I mean, you look at what happened in the SEC championship game. Georgia's first drive on offense was a masterclass. I mean, they went through Alabama like a hot knife through butter. And Nick Saban, after the game, said, we essentially took our game plan and chucked it in the trash in the first quarter. Hey, here's what we're going to do. They keep getting Dallas Turner out into the slot, outside the box. We're not doing that, Dallas. Your hands in the ground. We're going to rush 4. And they just squashed Georgia. They really did. They won in the trenches. They stopped Georgia's run game. And we all know if you can stop Georgia's run game, it does not allow the play action pass game to develop. And then the offense is essentially behind the 8 ball every single time they take the field. So look, in-game adjustments, managing quarterbacks, not being afraid to make the tough decisions. Nick Saban, he is a legend. There's no doubt. Who do you have, though? Who is the coach of the year, Hammy?
So the Hammy coach of the year is Washington's Kalen DeBoer. I think the job he has done for the Huskies is second to none. I mean, Pac-12 champs, 13-0, number 2 in the country. There's only 2 other schools in the country that are 13-0 in conference champs, and that's Florida State and Michigan. Florida State getting snubbed, Michigan number 1 in the country. I'm telling you what Kalen DeBoer is doing at Washington, it's going to be serious for the next few years, and I am looking forward to seeing the Huskies, their success. I mean, Penix was a big part of it. Adunze was a big part of it, but it all started.
Jaron McMillan, just watch these guys in the Sugar Bowl. I loved seeing the intensity that Washington came out with in the Pac-12 championship game when all week long people were like, they're going to lose. Oregon's a 10-point favorite. Washington won't win. Washington kind of like veiled shots at calling them frauds. And Washington just totally had that game in a stranglehold from the jump. Their first drive was like a 7-minute drive. It ended in a touchdown. I was like, Oregon's in big trouble. And Kalen DeBoer, he had those guys ready to go. Pac-12 champs, undefeated, number 2 in the country. Michael Penix Jr. going to New York as a Heisman finalist. So very deserving of the Hammy Coach of the Year award.
Yeah, there's some very good coaches in college football. That one was a tough decision, but DeBoer, got to give it to him. So your final Hammy award, the Levy's Damn Good Player of the Year. Little backstory, named after Shereen Vance Levy, editors and owners of Bulldawg Illustrated.
Shout out Vance Levy.
So great to me. They started with me 9 years ago. This was my first article ever written. 9 years later, I'm hosting a show with Drew Butler. So thank you.
There you
Sheree
go.
And Vance. A huge shout out to them. The Damn Good Player of the Year is named after y'all. So thank you very much. But you're finalist. This is a long list because there's so many great players in college football every year. And this year, particularly, there is talent across the board. So bear with me for a moment. Your finalist number 1, Brock Bowers from Georgia. Super impactful. Always, when he is on the field, it is always dangerous. Second finalist, Blake Corum out of Michigan. There is not one person on the Michigan Wolverines that means more to this team than Blake Corum, because J.J. McCarthy, maybe not always the best passer, but they can always go to Blake Corum. And that's where their offense starts, is their run game. So I think Blake Corum is super deserving to be a finalist for the Damn Good Player of the Year. Next, Jaden Daniels. I mean, that's enough. I mean, he's an absolute freak athlete and a great quarterback. It's a shame that LSU didn't have a better defense, like we said.
That's right.
Then Marvin Harrison Jr. Talked about him. Crazy, crazy athlete in college football. Will be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. Then Laitu Latu out of UCLA. Gave him the Defensive Player of the Year award. He is an absolute showstopper, turns heads. He will be playing on Sundays. Great player for UCLA. Then Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe came into this season maybe not even being QB1, like we've said, and he has completely flipped the script and became a seriously good quarterback in college football this year. Then Bo Nix out of Oregon. Another great quarterback in the country this year.
Yep.
He is another transfer, but another stud. I mean, what Dan Lanning did with him in that Oregon offense, making him a Heisman finalist.
Unbelievable.
It's awesome. Then Michael Penix. We've talked about him a lot too. A great quarterback, led his team to a number 2 ranking in the country. We'll see you in the CFP, Michael Penix. A great quarterback, a great competitor, a great captain for that Huskies offense. Then Tavondre Sweat. We've said it. He's in there for 3 awards, but I love it. I love it. Like I said, he's like a Jordan Davis to this Texas defense. Just a heart and soul type of dude. He's a glue guy. He is an awesome teammate, a super impactful person on that D-line for Texas. And finally, Jordan Travis.
Okay.
So your finalists are announced, but your winner is none other than I gotta give a little shout out. Actually, a little disclaimer. We're not going Heisman stat padding. We're not going
Not
Heisman
going.
stat.
Okay. So yeah,
This
I
is
like your
this
thought
is
process there.
impact alone. I don't the Heisman stat padding. I'm over it. This is impact alone. Who is the most impactful player in college football? And it is Jordan Travis. Jordan Travis, literally, if he plays, Florida State is in the CFP with a chance to win a national championship. He's the most impactful player in college football. Bar none, he will be talked about forever if he stays healthy. They go to the CFP. It's crazy.
Look, I mean, the committee essentially said it. If he was still healthy, Florida State would be in the college football playoff. By that rationale, Jordan Travis should be the unanimous Heisman Trophy winner because the committee is saying he is the most important player in college football. So great choice. 2,755 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions. He had a season-long 79.6 QBR. Also, 7 rushing touchdowns, the heart and soul of the Florida State Seminoles. He came back this year, put his hand in the pile to accomplish exactly what they did. Go undefeated, win a conference championship, be one of the best teams in the country, and have a chance to play for a national championship. But since he got hurt, which is not his own fault, the committee had said, you're not worthy of making it to the college football playoff, and you will not get a chance to play for a college football national championship. So, Jordan Travis, you are most certainly the Levy's Damn Good Player of the Year award winner.
Yep. Congratulations to Jordan Travis. I think you should be in New York. I think Florida State should be in the CFP, but you did get this one award, the famous Levy's Damn Good Player of the Year.
Levy's Damn Good Player of the Year. That's right.
So, Drew, that is a wrap on the Hammy Show of 2023, the Hammy Awards. Thank you so much for co-hosting with me.
Dude, thank you so much. You've been a huge help to Punt and Pass all season long. Hope everybody out there that's been enjoying Bulldawg Illustrated has crossed over and listened to a little Punt and Pass with myself and Jake Fromm throughout this awesome season. It was a fun season. And I think I said this maybe at the beginning of the show, but I know we're all dog fans here. I know the streak is over, right? 29 straight, 2 back-to-back national championships, 3 straight undefeated regular seasons. Here's the reality of the situation. It ended the best way possible. Would you have rather us lost at Neyland Stadium and had 100,000 people rush the field? Of course not. Would you have rather had us lost between the hedges against Mizzou, which would have been Mizzou's biggest win in program history, and it would have been the #1 storyline in college football? Of course not. That would have been demoralizing. Would you have rather lost on the flats against Georgia Tech? Are you kidding me? We would have never heard the end of that. Of course not. We were in a conference championship game. It was a hard-fought battle. Lost by 3 points to the greatest coach of all time in Alabama. Look, on to next year. Crimson Tide, we'll see you in September.
Exactly. I love it. I love it. We're coming for it in Tuscaloosa. We're going to leave Tuscaloosa with the Tide's tusks a little looser. So, there we go. Well, thank you so much, Drew. That's a wrap for the Hammys. This has been an amazing college football year. We'll see you next time.